doing it. Alan, hello. Alan's going to present the report for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So this report really deals with the kind of the last working period of Invest SK before the work was brought back in-house to be run as a direct council department, still maintaining, of course, the brand of Invest SK, because that's something that Collie's been really comfortable with, and the business community has really found helpful. The final accounts have now signed off, and the only remaining action is the dissolution of the company at Companies House. That's planned to be carried out next week. So with the exception of some administration at Companies House, this is now closed. The report also deals with some of the successes and the work that was carried out in that final period of training, and they're dealt with in section 2.4 to 2.14. I don't propose to add anything further to the report, Chairman, but I'm sure we'll try and answer as many questions as we can.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from members? Thank you, Harish.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would very much like to know a bit more, especially paragraph 2.4 actually attract my attention, is the dissolving of Invest SK. And what was the part that was good? Is there any possibility that we will be appraised of that was successfully Invest SK that could be transferred to the current working group or current councils, bodies that are really looking after that part of it?
Thank you.
So suppose the successes and the details of the things that were carried out are dealt with in section 2.14. So there are a number of those. So the highlights around the ability to pass over the grants during the COVID period, the delivery of several discretionary schemes to support businesses where they weren't getting all the support. All those people are still in place, Councillor. So those kind of things can continue. But I think I alluded to it in my introduction. Actually, the real success has been that contact with all our businesses, driven to a degree by having the grant schemes to prepare. We've been in contact with far more businesses than we have been before, because of that direct need to, and they really do like the brand. They trust the people involved, and that's probably the thing that we'll bring with us. All the people are still in place, and we're maintaining that brand of Invest SK, so they can still contact us via the website and their existing contact details. So those are the things that I would suggest are the things that we bring with us. Of course, in this kind of work, it's new projects and new things happen all the time. But I'd suggest those are things that we need to maintain.
Thank you. Councillor Rice-Oxley.
Thank you. Yes, so in the original business plan for Invest SK, it was to be an arm's length company, partly so it could apply to sort of grants and pots of money that weren't available to the council. I'd like to ask, in retrospect, was there a great benefit to this being an arm's length company? Did Invest SK receive monies of this kind from these kind of pots of money? And what will the benefits be now of bringing it back in-house? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is probably a question from a previous paper when we made the decision. And I think, you know, ultimately, yeah, they were able to take advantage of obtaining grant monies. But over a period of time, the staffing and the amount of interventions were able to be taken place and the grant funding available reduced to the point that it was equally possible for us to do that through our own authority. And when you're doing that for a relatively small amount of money, I think it makes sense not to add the overheads of being a company on top of that. So I think in essence that's but you know, we're revisiting a decision that's already been made there, and I think that's probably the debate that was had at the time. I wasn't present when the debate took place, so I'm afraid I can't give any more details, although I'm sure that outside of the committee I can speak with the manager of the internal team and get some details circulated to all the members of the committee and beyond if people think that's useful.
Councillor Rice Oxley.
Thank you. Now, forgive me, my memory is a little bit foggy, but in a discussion we had about the SPF funding fairly recently, there was a county-wide sort of business support scheme. I can't remember the name of it. I think it might have been linked to the LEP. I could be wrong. But there was some sort of county-wide business support. There was a cost to join that, quite a significant cost to join it, but the benefits would also be quite significant as well, as I understood it. Are we still considering joining that scheme? And if so, how does that link with the in-house Invest SK? Will there be any duplication? Does the existence of Invest SK in-house have an impact on our decision whether or not to join that county-wide scheme? Thank you.
Thank you. Alan?
So I don't think that there would be an impact of whether we're in-house or not in-house. Obviously, a vast majority, all of the district councils will be running their economic development growth teams in-house rather than through a company. So I'm not sure there would be any, certainly wouldn't be any disadvantage, I wouldn't have thought, but obviously, you know, we can get that detail for you later, unless Councillor Stokes has a better answer than me.
Councillor Stokes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. No, with regards to what Kathy Rice Oxley was mentioning just then, there are further discussions. I know that Nicola McCoy Brown is having those discussions and we'll be able to bring some more information back to yourselves.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dawson?
Mine is it's a little bit more forensic. We set up this company. When we get the final accounts, one, will we see how much we've actually spent? Because I think we've spent, you know, I'm a businessman. I look at it with horror, absolute horror. I now know who Matthew Lee is. I don't know where he is. I've got lots of little booklets with his photograph in it, saying what he's going to achieve and what he's not going to achieve. I worry that if you look at these things, regeneration, placemaking, business support, well, I'm quite sure we'd have got the support whether we'd had a Invest SK or not. I'm quite sure on the other one, we would have got the money. I'd like to know how much it's cost us to get what we've got. What have we got and how much does it cost us to get it? Because I have a horrible feeling that what we've got and what we've spent might be roughly about on the same par. I'm not one for councils having private companies because you're so inefficient. You know, you can't compete with me. If you come into my trade, I'll run circles around you. And when you talk to other business people, that's what they feel. My worry on all of these is that we've spent a fortune. I don't know what the fortune is. I hope at some point we will see a sort of forensic look at our accounts, so we all genuinely know, even if it's on a piece of paper, what have we spent, what have we achieved? Because I don't think for what we've spent, we've achieved an awful lot. There's good work's been done, but I think those good works have been done by the council. They could have probably been better by the council. And we've had a lot of operatives who have come from God knows where, who have gone away with a shed load of money. And that to me worries me, because we're going back to Anthony Barber when he first started these things. You're all too young, but when he first started where we played hopscotch. You left that job to go into this job because that one job was got rid of, and the man from another council came there for an extra 20 grand. You went there for an extra 40 grand. It's like musical chairs to make money. I know it probably sounds, you know, I know a lot of people don't listen to me, but if I ran my business like that, I wouldn't be in business. But I would like to see a forensic report of where the money's gone, who's had the money, how much of the money we've received has been taken away by what we've spent to get it. Thank you.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thank you for that, Councillor Dawson. I will ensure that we do have a total and you'll see what we've brought in. All the accounts are on Companies House and all the income is there. But what we must also remember is the amount that we've probably spent on this company within the amount we spent within the, if we had that in-house. So it's been a similar amount of budget anyway, but they have been able to get money in as mentioned at 2.14. But I will ensure that that report is done and brought back to Companies Committee.
Thank you. Yes, Chan.
We had a meeting some time ago, and I think it was Environment SK. And when you looked at the accounts, it didn't show Officer time. After the meeting, I had a word with Graham Gill, and we reckoned that there were about 3 people earning more than the Prime Minister there. I reckoned on the back of a fag packet, that meeting cost us 6,000. 6,000? What did we didn't achieve anything. £6,000. I've got to work very hard to get £6,000. And that's what we worked it out. But it never appeared in your financial things for that company. None of those meetings, you couldn't find charges that said, we've got X man, he's on X pounds, he's come to the meeting, we've sat there, we've had a nice conversation, decided what we're going to do. I could have done that, Graham Jim could have done that, the committee could have done that. But we had those special meetings, and Karen did pick me up on it and said, no, I looked totally wrong, but I don't think I was.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether there's an answer to that, but I will pass over to.
yeah, I mean, there are, in the accounts, there are some support costs, which is recharged from the council. There is, so they are within the account. So I can fully understand where you're coming from, Councillor Dawson. As an accountant, I'm aware of that. So, yeah, but I'll make sure that the original information that you requested will be done and will be provided by John Hind.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter, I believe you had a brief point.
Thank you. I don't know what led you to believe it was brief, but thank you for allowing me to chip in. I've just got to find my note. I wholly concur with Councillor Dawson. This could have been delivered in-house. I challenge the directors of Invest SK or Councillor Stokes, Councillor Adam Stokes, to say about any of the successes that couldn't have been delivered by a properly funded economic development department. I realise we've thrown lots of money about it, and it's at least 3 million quid that's gone through this company. Other people have said it's more like 4 or 4.5. But if you just add up the total spent in each year by Environment SK, it's well over £3 million. And all it's done, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been watching it from the start. I called in the original decision to go into a private company. It's made it possible for cabinet members and the council to be secret about what they're doing, to obfuscate about what they're doing, to make it extremely difficult to be scrutinised. And there's only this committee once a quarter or whatever that is able to say anything about Invest SK. We asked for business plans, and every time they were thrown back. We never had a sensible business plan from Invest SK. We've paid off officers, we've paid off chief executives. Half the staff in the first place came from Peterborough. We've had Beano's, we had the Stoke Rochford Economic Summit that cost £14,000. I'm sure Councillor Dawson could have organised it for less. We've had trips to the south of France. I'd like to know, where in this report do we see the lessons learned? We see all the good news, but where does it say why we've decided to shut this down and what we're going to learn in the future if we ever embark on such a ridiculous venture of it again?
Thank you. I believe the answer may come from the answer that Alan suggested earlier, that it was a previous debate. However, does anybody want to pick up on any of the comments? Because obviously, Councillor Stokes has.
I'll take.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, Councillor Baxter, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't agree with what you've said on the majority of what you've said. You're quite capable of looking on the accounts to see how much this company has cost. It would be a very similar amount, as I said to Councillor Dawson, had the service been delivered in-house. I don't think I've really got much more to say on that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bisnath-Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Probably earlier I did not quite form my questions quite clearly, but what specifically on page 19 under regeneration and placemaking, that is a 2.14 sub paragraph. The third one, which says successful year of delivery of 900k Grantham High Street Heritage Action Zone, the house. I take it that from the 900K, only 170K is being spent. And there's a further 120K pipeline activity. So what I would like to know, what is the further 120 pipeline activities is for? And obviously there's plenty more money left in there. Where is that going to go? What are the other projects that have been planned for it for people? Is that only just we spend in Grantham or other towns? We got other 4 towns, got Bourne, Stamford and Deeping, so could benefit from them. I would like to know. And also at the bottom end, which is led on delivery of several projects, 250K government welcome back fund. This is a fund that we receive from the government. Yeah. Have we spent it yet? Or what are the projects we spend it or is earmarked to be spent on? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Alan and then Adam.
So some of those questions I can answer. So the 250,000 was government funding that has been spent. Can the Grantham High Street Heritage Action Zone money be spent in other towns? No, it's the terms of the grant are to spend it for heritage work in Grantham. I haven't got full details with me of what that £120,000 pipeline is, but I'm sure we can get those for you. But it has to be so that the terms of the grant are that it must be spent on heritage in Grantham. So that's it can't be spent in other places.
And the remainder of the money, because you're talking about 120, 170, 290,000 that will be spent so far, and the remainder 700,000 that is left. Where is that going to go?
Thank you, Councillor Stokes.
Yeah, I mean, the remainder is going to be used over is a few years. So I think it's a 3-year project. So it's going to be spread over those 3 years. So that's just what's been spent now. There are further things coming in the pipeline, as mentioned here, but there's going to be further spent on the heritage zone.
Is that something that will be tangible and visible to the people? The benefits for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other points? Councillor Rice-Oxley.
Thank you. So in the second recommendation, it says recommends to Cabinet the effectiveness of business support continues to be monitored. So I'm just wondering what form that monitoring is going to take. Seeking feedback from South Castilian small and medium-sized enterprises. Yes, I'm just wondering is this by focus group? Is this by survey? What kind of reports are going to be produced? And sort of following on from that, now that Investors K is a sort of unit within the council, how is that unit itself, the success of that unit itself going to be monitored? Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Who is willing to take them?
So now that it's a normal department, it's the same process of all our services. So there'll be 6 monthly reports at OSCs, those kind of things. It'll just go into the normal performance management framework that we have for the council. In terms of how we capture that data, I'm afraid I'm not sure about that, but I guess it will be the same way we always have done, even when it was a company. I don't think that will make any key difference to the way it's done. So, but yeah, it'll be through all the things you said, I would imagine. But I can get you more information about that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. So this report again is for noting, but obviously we have had a request that we have that further report because the company will be closed down, but we've had the further report for the outturn coming from Councillor Adam Stokes in a future meeting. Councillor Stokes, is that likely to be November or? Thank you. Okay. Great. Okay. Everybody is happy. We will now move on to item 6, which is Leisure SK accounts. It is actually Leisure SK accounts 2020-2021 and does not include, despite the top sheet saying financial year 22-23. That will follow in the November meeting. So do I have any questions on? Sorry, let's present the report first, then we'll go to some questions, shall we? Karen, with yours.
No problem, Chairman. So I am pleased to present to you today the financial accounts for Leisure SK for the period September 20 to March 21. The accounts have been prepared by Bergen and Co on behalf of the company and have been signed off by the Board of Directors and subsequently filed at Companies House. As mentioned, the accounts for the financial year 21-22 are in the process of being audited and will be presented at the November meeting. I think that's all I've got to say on these. I think it's quite self-explanatory. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this, please? Okay. Oh, that's Councillor Visnath.
Just a cheeky little question, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. I see that in the background to the report, you say, which I fully endorse, to make South Kesteven District Council area to be the best district to live, in which to live, to work, to visit, and to enjoy for the leisure. I just wondered, it was promised last time that each of the towns was going to have some leisure facilities. When is Stamford is planned to get one? Thank you, a proper one.
I'm not 100% sure that's a question we can ask on the accounts if I'm 100% sure. But I'll hand you over to Adam.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Well, Councillor, you're well aware that Stamford have got a leisure facility and they've got a leisure centre. So, well, it's a leisure centre. Thank you.
Thank you. No. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. I welcome these accounts and I look forward to the other accounts coming in November. Kind of related to Councillor Bishnow's things question. These accounts are for the period which was heavily impacted by COVID, even more than we are at the moment. And also we were one leisure centre down for most of the period. There is no pool in, there is no SK pool in Stamford or the Deepings, which allows people to do lane swimming or to easily do lane swimming. What do you think will be the impact on the accounts when we have the new leisure centre at Deeping or the refurbished leisure centre at Deepings on the move and operational? And when do you think that will happen? Have we got enough in the kitty to fix the holes at Bourne and at Stamford? And there was one other. And are we intending to keep this as a arm's length company of SKDC, or are we intending to go back out to the market and find some third party to run it for us, or are we going to bring the whole thing in-house?
Okay, I'll hand over to Adam Stokes, but I do actually think that a couple of those questions, these are accounts looking back that have been signed off, and that is the point that we're discussing today. And obviously in the November meeting, we have got next accounts and then the forward plan. So I think that probably is a more suitable question for that. However, I will hand you over to Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Chairman. There are a couple of points I would make. The holes at Stamford, I don't quite agree with that. There is investment going into Bourne, as you will have seen at the last cabinet meeting. We are investing in a new gym area, and that's being completely refurbished. The income from the Deepings would go into the company, but obviously this company, as with all public sector and personal people, are going to be impacted by the rising energy costs, whereby any profitability will be probably swallowed up by looking at the figures going forward by the increasing cost, because obviously heating swimming pools, we've got to do that because you can't turn it off and on, unfortunately, because it would just take too long to heat up again. So there are a number of issues, but I do not with the heating and etc. costs, but I'm a bit confused by your holes at Stamford comment. We are doing work at Bourne at the moment, but yeah, I do take a bit of, I'm a bit confused by that. Thank you.
If it's brief, Councillor Baxter.
Yeah, just to clarify, we had a report recently that said there were holes at Bourne, there were leaky roofs at Bourne. And I thought that we had a list of works that needed to be done at Stamford. I apologise if I've said holes when I mean other maintenance issues. If you're saying that the Stamford pool is up to date with all its maintenance, then that's fine.
No, that wasn't the question, councillor Baxter. Your initial question wasn't that. You were talking about holes. So I was a bit confused by that. We have got a maintenance programme. We are working through that at the moment, and we will continue to work through that. The swimming pools of both Bournemouth, Grantham and Stamford.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, so please can I have a proposer to agree to receive the accounts for the period, thank you, April 21 to March 22, and a second thank you, councillor Crawford. All those in favour, please. Is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to item number 8, which is Environment SK finance update, including financial statements 21-22. Is this councillor Stokes?
Yeah, back to me. So I'm pleased to be able to present you the financial statements and accounts for Environment SK for 21-22. These again have been filed to Companies House and they have been approved by the Board of Directors. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to help. I've got all the directors here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The report itself is obviously fine for discussion in the public domain, but the annual report and the unaudited financial statements for the year end are on pink papers, and if we have questions on them, we will need to move into a closed session. So I think possibly the simplest way of asking is, have we got questions on the pink papers? Yes, we have. Okay, please, could we move back into a closed session?
Sorry, Chair, I have a question that can be asked in the open session.
Okay, let's go with that first then. Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you. My question, I think I asked it yesterday at the Rural Communities Committee relating to the future of Environment SK. It was agreed that we would go out to some kind of tender process, procurement process for the future delivery of Environment SK. What progress on that?
Councillor Adam Stokes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. If you, the next Companies Committee on the 15th of November, there will be a grounds maintenance delivery options paper brought to this, and that will be discussed.
Thank you, Councillor. We discussed this in open session. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just on page 71, 2.6. So it says at the time of writing this report, there's currently uncertainty of the future of the company, awaiting instruction from SKDC. So just my question is, who at SKDC, is that waiting instruction from Cabinet or from this committee, or yes, and what is that? What kind of instruction is that? Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There are dates to be released, but we do have a series of scrutiny meetings planned, and which will provide recommendations to Cabinet following a full options appraisal in terms of future options. So that will be before the end of the calendar year. The grounds maintenance options were previously considered by a joint meeting of Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee and Environment Committee. So it's proposed we do a similar joint meeting from those two committees to provide the recommendation.
Thank you. I guess I've got an adjoined question then. So if we're expecting it back on our agenda here on the 15th of November, does it need to go to that joint committee before it comes to us, or what order does it need to go in, and do we need to move it on our work plan?
We'd be looking at the joint meeting of the scrutiny committees firstly, and then a subsequent meeting of companies committee. So obviously, because the timescales are quite tight, we're just working through that governance timeline at the moment. So we'll update members and you as chairman as soon as we can.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions that we